Keir Starmer is facing the fight of his political life as a storm of controversy brews over his handling of the migration crisis, the Labour Party's priorities, and a surging Nigel Farage-led movement that threatens to shake the very foundations of British politics. In an explosive twist, journalist Danny Kelly has branded Starmer arrogant for outright dismissing the government's Rwanda migration scheme, a plan to deport illegal migrants to Rwanda for processing without even testing its potential. The accusation has thrown Labour into turmoil, casting doubts over Starmer's leadership and his ability to deliver on his promises. Kelly's searing critique, aired during a GB News segment, pulled no punches. He argued that Starmer's refusal to even allow a few test flights to Rwanda showed a dangerous overconfidence. "How does he know it wouldn't work?" Kelly asked pointedly, echoing the frustration of voters and analysts alike, who are desperate for answers to the ongoing crisis in the English Channel. Starmer has steadfastly maintained that the Rwanda plan is unworkable and unethical, but critics like Kelly argue his dismissal of the scheme isn't grounded in evidence. "This is the great unknown," Kelly continued, and Starmer didn't even want to try. This isn't the first time Starmer has found himself under fire for his approach to immigration. In the run-up to his leadership bid, he promised to smash the gangs responsible for orchestrating the dangerous crossings. Yet Kelly's critique exposed what many are now seeing as hollow rhetoric. "We were expecting dawn raids," Kelly said, painting a dramatic picture of coordinated law enforcement crackdowns on gang networks in Europe and Britain, doors being smashed in, gangmasters dragged out in handcuffs. Instead, months later, the crossings continue, and the shadowy criminal organizations behind them remain largely untouched. What makes this saga even more damning is Kelly's revelation about how tightly organized crime controls the crossings. "It's all run by the mafia," he explained, shedding light on a sinister underworld. Migrants attempting to cross the channel aren't simply buying dinghies or striking out on their own. They're beholden to crime syndicates that demand exorbitant fees in exchange for a perilous trip. Kelly described how the mob controls every inch of the French coastline, ensuring no one makes it to Dover without paying the price, literally and figuratively. Starmer's critics are accusing him of failing to fully grasp the scope of the problem. While his government-in-waiting talks of tackling organised crime, the lack of visible progress is leading many to question whether Labour has a real plan or simply a collection of talking points. For Starmer, the stakes couldn't be higher. With migration consistently polling as one of the top concerns for British voters, failing to deliver could mean political disaster. Labour's Home Secretary-in-Waiting, Yvette Cooper, has also found herself under the microscope. Recently, Cooper announced an £8 million blitz on illegal working, aiming to beef up immigration enforcement with new officers and resources. While the move was intended to showcase Labour's commitment to securing borders, critics have been quick to point out the enormity of the challenge. Cooper's enforcement push has been labelled too little, too late by some observers, who argue that without tackling the root causes, namely the criminal gangs, it's unlikely to yield significant results. Danny Kelly voiced his own concerns about setting measurable goals for reducing illegal migration, warning that such targets often backfire. "Once you set a deadline, if you don't hit the damn thing, it'll haunt you," he said, cautioning Cooper against making promises she can't keep. The criticism raises an uncomfortable question. Is Labour focusing on optics rather than solutions? While Labour grapples with these domestic issues, its foreign policy decisions have also drawn scrutiny. In a surprising announcement, the party pledged £50 million in humanitarian aid for Syria following the recent overthrow of Bashar al-Assad's regime. Of that sum, £30 million will go towards emergency food, shelter and healthcare inside Syria, while the rest will support refugees in neighbouring countries like Lebanon and Jordan. Foreign Secretary David Lammy has positioned the aid package as a crucial step in rebuilding Syria and supporting its people during a time of monumental change. But the timing of the announcement has raised eyebrows. With Labour under fire for its handling of migration and the ongoing strain on public services at home, some critics have questioned whether such a large aid package is politically wise. "Why are we sending millions abroad when we can't fix our own problems?" has become a rallying cry among Labour's detractors. Lamy defended the decision, calling it a once-in-a-generation chance to support the Syrian people in building a stable future. But back home, the optics of Labour's international spending while UK voters struggle with rising costs and inadequate public services could deepen perceptions of a party out of touch with its base. As Labour struggles to control the narrative, Nigel Farage and his Reform UK party are seizing the moment. Fresh off a surprise victory in the Blackbrook Council by-election, Reform UK chairman Zia Youssef made a jaw-dropping claim. Farage is not only on track to enter Parliament, but he will also become Prime Minister with hundreds of MPs. The assertion, while bold, underscores the growing threat Reform UK poses to the established parties. According to Youssef, Farage's rise is being fuelled by public frustration with both Labour and the Conservatives, particularly on hot-button issues like immigration. What's more, Farage's growing influence isn't limited to the UK. Rumours are swirling about potential financial backing from tech billionaire Elon Musk, a vocal supporter of free speech and populist movements. While Youssef refused to confirm any direct contributions, he did acknowledge that Farage and Musk have been in contact. Elon is obsessed with values like freedom of speech, and he sees Nigel as someone who aligns with those principles, Youssef said cryptically, leaving the door open to speculation. The idea of a Farage-Musk alliance has electrified Reform UK supporters and sent shockwaves through Westminster. Critics are quick to dismiss Youssef's predictions as far-fetched, but the numbers suggest otherwise. Reform UK is climbing in the polls, buoyed by public trust in Farage's straightforward approach to key issues like immigration and governance. Youssef also took a jab at the Conservatives, contrasting Reform's unity with the infighting that has plagued the Tories. "We're not wasting time fighting amongst ourselves," he said, delivering a line that will undoubtedly resonate with disenchanted voters. For Keir Starmer, the challenge is now twofold. On one hand, he must address the growing impatience over Labour's domestic policies, particularly on migration. On the other, he must contend with the threat posed by Farage, who is positioning himself as the voice of ordinary Britons tired of political doublespeak. Starmer's critics argue that his approach to migration lacks the boldness and clarity that voters crave, while his international commitments risk alienating key segments of the electorate. In the face of these mounting pressures, Starmer's next moves will be critical. Will he double down on his current strategies, or will he pivot to address the concerns raised by figures like Danny Kelly? And what about Nigel Farage? Could he really ride the wave of public discontent all the way to Downing Street? With so much at stake, the coming weeks could prove decisive for the future of British politics. One thing is certain, the drama is far from over. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more political updates.